as a thought experiment,
Right.
what would be your fear for experiencing retirement? I don't want to be what?
I don't want to be in a position where I can't do what I can do now.
So that it sounds like in your story, Lauren, there's a couple of steps, right? So we need to figure out what's the one we really want to get into today. One is, I made some decisions that I now think, I lost money or let go of money that was mine. And we could dive into that. Now we've gone a step further. There's something, it's like, yeah, it is that, but actually I ignored my own red flags, or I kind of knew and then I didn't act on my knowing. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a bit more nuanced. So my hunch is maybe we hang around with the latter of those. So like I kind of knew, but I didn't act based on that.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, how does that feel important for you, that side of it, or is it more?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
I think it is interconnected, but maybe we need to tease it out.
Well, so why don't you say a bit more around that? So just a bit more about the context.
So the decisions that I'm thinking of around walking away from money were always to do with relationship and relationship breakdown. And then I walked away because I felt like I just wanted out. And yes, there was the money interconnection that should have been negotiated on, but I didn't do that. And I justified it at the time by saying, I just want out of the relationship. And money's not that important. My happiness is more important. So I justified it in that way. But there was, if I'm really honest about it, and when I think about it, I knew that I was walking away and that wasn't taking care of myself.
Yeah. And, there may be reasons why any of us just walk away from a situation or don't deal with a difficult money relationship. We just want to get away because maybe it's just too painful or too overwhelming or whatever. So we just need to get away. And somehow on some level, it sounds like, yeah, I know I'm not really taking care of my real interests here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was conscious of that at the time.
Yeah.
And still decided to walk away.
Yeah. Okay. And so what's the thing now that you feel most really angry with yourself or hardest to let go or forgive around that? So you did that, right? Relationship breakups suck. They're horrible. Dealing with money is horrible. And it sounds like, and we've only heard a bit of the story. It sounds like you were just like, I just need to get away. Even though a little bit I know, I may be not really attending to what I really need here. So what's the bit now that you're hardest on yourself for?
I think so. It's the consequences of that then, because I didn't take care of myself then, which is it's kind of looping back to Jackson's idea about, and therefore, I'm 60 now. So now I'm starting to kind of think about what happens when I can't work anymore. And then looping that back to, if only I had taken care of myself then, I would be in a much better position financially now, because I did give away a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like property things.
Yeah, it was always to do with property. Yeah. So that's where it's biting me now.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh God, if I hadn't done that, then my future in retirement would look a lot brighter.
Yeah. So again, it's like what we were saying with Jackson, there's a sort of a looking back and looking forward.
Yeah.
And actually we need to tune into what's the most valuable bit here. So we'll have a go, right? We don't have loads of time, and I definitely want time for people at the end, and we can see where we go, Lauren. You can always follow up, and I've got, because you've been on the workshop, I can kind of send you some stuff as well.
Oh,
but I think it's really interesting because we started off about, I can't forgive myself for something, or I feel shame about something, which, it's very understandable. And then actually that seems to get triggered when I think about my future, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my retirement and I'm feeling something or worrying about something, looking forward. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I have that concern moving forward, that's when I get really down on myself for past mistakes. Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lauren, it sounds like let's put it another way. Let's do a couple of thought experiments.
Okay.
If you currently had a retirement pot of $1 million, do you imagine you'd feel the same about your past mistake or decisions, I should say?
No, because then we're going back to Ellen's thing about there's a certain level that's a comfort zone.
Yeah.
Financially.
Right.
So if I had $1 million in my retirement, that would be comfortable for me.
Okay. And so if I was comfortable now with my $1 million, or feel free to say 2 million, I just made up a figure.
Yeah.
Okay, but with this figure now, those things that I'm beating myself up about making mistakes, suddenly I wouldn't be beating myself up about. Is that right? Is that true?
Yeah, I don't think I would.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting, right?
Yeah.
So that suggests, again, going quite quickly today, my hunch is, although we could work on what you did and why you did it and whether you looked after yourself, my hunch is what's going on is that there's some anxiety about the future that gets whipped up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the places you go around that is about these past decisions. How does that sound when I say it?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I know I go in that loop and it's fruitless for me because it has happened. So on a sort of logical basis, I can think, well, it has happened. And also I am very open to thinking that all sorts of things can change.
Yeah.
And just because I'm 60 now doesn't mean to say that I can't still earn money to have that comfort level, or a comfort level that I'm happy with in my retirement. That's possible.
Great. So what's the problem?
Because I go in that backward loop.
Okay. So actually, there's something about me, I get caught somewhere, and that's as much a problem as the money reality at the moment. I'm not underestimating money reality, but I'm really trying to tune into you, Lauren. What's the thing that if we could shift it would be most valuable? It would almost be just to let go of those decisions or not keep going into that loop.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's do a thought experiment, because it's great to hear, you're kind of okay, although not as comfortable as you might be. And you're 60, you've got earning potential. And, I don't get a sense you don't feel you could potentially resource yourself, right? So that's all great. So as a thought experiment, I think there's two places we go here. We dive into what would be your real fear for being under-resourced in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start with that. So let's say you'd really, really messed it up. You'd made terrible decisions and, it's really not looking good. As a thought experiment,
right.
What would be your fear for experiencing retirement? I don't want to be what?
I don't want to be in a position where I can't do what I can do now.
Okay. And what's the word for someone? Yeah.
I don't want it to be taken away from me.
What would be taken away? My freedom, my comfort?
Yeah, my freedom to do what I want to do.
Okay. So if I don't have the right pot the right retirement, I'm less free.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Because you mentioned the word comfort. By the way, everyone, this is what we do, is we tune in from the story and the pattern, and we try and find words that are really important words for Lauren as she thinks about this. And we'll see where we can get to. So freedom's important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talked about comfort. Is that?
I mean, comfort at a certain financial level so that I'm not having my freedom curtailed.
Right. Okay. So that's really helpful. So it's freedom is the key, isn't it, for you?
Yeah.
I want to be free. And if I don't have money, I'm not free. And therefore, if I'd made different decisions in the past, I'd have a bigger pot, and that would mean I stay free when I stop working.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens if I've mucked it all up and I'm not free? What's somebody who just doesn't have money in retirement? You know, for you, the opposite of free.
Dependent.
Dependent. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you don't want to be.
Nope.
Do you hear that? How clear Lauren is that she doesn't want to be dependent?
No, I really don't.
Yeah, you really don't like that, do you?
No.
And again, we don't know anything about Lauren's story or current situation or anything, but we know you like being free and you don't like being dependent, right? And these are really important words for you. Yeah?
Yeah.
Just out of interest, if you were short of money, if you were, are there people in your lives that you could, you know, that would support you, would allow you to be even a 2% dependent or 5% dependent?
I don't know the answer to that because I can't even imagine going to that place.
Okay.
I can't even imagine asking someone.
Okay. Okay. So now we're seeing, and it's only taken a few minutes, this is quite important, this area of freedom and dependence for you, isn't it? Is my guess. It also makes me wonder about when I leave a relationship, if freedom is so important, I just get out and I don't want to maybe ask for what I need or get entangled with. Even that might be difficult. So it may make sense that it's just, I just go because I'm all about the freedom. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, Lauren.
Yeah, no, it totally does. Because if I then am completely disconnected from that person, I regain my freedom.
Yes. Well, you think you do. And I do understand it. I do understand it. I believe if I'm disconnected, I'm free. Yeah. Okay. So I think let's stay here for today. I think there's 2 steps. Maybe I can follow up in an email if it's helpful, Lauren. I think there are 2 steps, but freedom and independence seems super important. So let's stay with that. The other question I might ask myself is, what would be the name for someone? Actually, let's do this just for a minute, but we won't dive into it. So what's the name for someone who made decisions and the decisions meant they weren't free in their retirement and they end up having to be dependent? Like they made that, you know, let's say they made bad decisions, they made wrong decisions, they made stupid decisions, and now they're not free. What's the word for someone who did that? Might be like, I'm stupid, I make stupid decisions, or I'm a fool, but it could be other things.
Could be naivety.
Yeah. I'm naive, I'm a fool, those sorts of things. I think we won't dive into those, but that can also be a good area to work on. For any of us who think I've made bad decisions, often what we do is we fight it. It's like we're caught in it and we feel terrible about the bad decisions. And we kind of secretly think we're naive or foolish or stupid, but then we fight it. So then the best thing to do is go, yeah, I'm a fool. And it's okay. But let's go back. I think freedom and independence is more important to you, yeah, right now. So we'll just try this and see if it helps. So we're thinking about your future. It gets tangled up with past decisions and it's very highly charged. But I think the real charge here is when I look at my numbers now, I am anxious or worried that I might not be free or as free as I'd really like to be. And that's what I don't like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so remember, to everyone at the beginning, I said, money gets tangled up with emotion or human experience. And we think the two go together, but actually they're not tied up. We tie them up. Okay. So, what's the thing that makes you not free right now? That makes you most not free right now?
Being in a job that is not me.
Okay. So we could dive into that and why I'm doing it and money as well. I'm also wondering if being full of looking back at this thing in the past and keep going back there is another way that I might be tying myself up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the thing I want to be free in my retirement. And the worst thing if I wasn't free or didn't have money for you is I might be dependent.
Yeah.
And actually, that's so bad, I can't even imagine whether there's someone I might ask for some money or support because it's just such a no for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there any other word that goes with dependent? That sort of person. Let's say, I don't know, let's say Isabel said, yeah, I don't have much money, but it's all right because, my dad or my neighbor or Joe Bloggs down the road, they're very rich and they like me. So I'm going to ask them if they'll give me $1,000 a month. Right?
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable and dependent.
Mm.
Yeah. So just breathe a second as you say those words. Just notice those words, whether they carry a feeling. Vulnerable, dependent. And you can say this out loud is great. And if that feels too much, you can say it inwardly. But stay with your body. So just take a couple of breaths and have your feet on the ground and, see if you can breathe and have a loose body. What happens if you say, I am vulnerable and dependent, and it's okay?
I am vulnerable and dependent, and it's okay.
It's a big thing to say.
Mm.
And just breathe. That's all you have to do. You don't have to believe it. That's very important. This is not a belief. Just breathe. And again, connect with your feet and your bum on the chair and your belly breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And just notice what happens if you say, I am vulnerable and dependent. And it's okay. Just notice what happens in your body.
I'm vulnerable and dependent, and it's okay.
You don't have to believe what you've just said. You just have to register if anything is going on in your body, as you say.
I'm getting a tightness in my belly.
Yeah. Anything else?
A feeling of heaviness, sadness.
But that's often the first step.
Yeah.
And we're not going to force anything to happen, but this might be a little seed for you to work on. And again, we can follow up. You were about to say something else, I think.
Yeah, feeling small. Just physically feel smaller.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So just stay with that feeling if you can, Lauren. You're doing great, especially in a session like this. I think it's amazing what you're doing. So if I'm actually noticing, it's almost like I feel smaller. Yeah. Just stay with that feeling. Yeah, like I'm a bit small and dependent. It's almost a little bit maybe childlike or something.
Yeah.
So just for a moment while I talk to the group, just if you can, just allow that feeling. And it is okay. I'm small, vulnerable, dependent, and it's okay. And I don't have to believe it. It's existentially true. But stay with the feeling if you're willing to. And I'll talk to the group just for a minute and then we'll come right back to you. Does that feel okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I suspect it's quite important, this experience. So let me just say what's going on to the other people. The basis of the work we're sharing today is we tie up parts of who we are, of our psychology, with money. We all do it. That's the universal pattern. But exactly which parts get tied up with money or what figures, that's what we have to figure out. And what Lauren's saying is, if I had $1 million in my pension account, or if I hadn't made those decisions, I would have a figure, an amount of money that she thinks would allow me to feel free. And I'm guessing, Lauren, for you, freedom is something to do with an autonomy and a power in the world and an agency. Like even in my body, I'm doing it now like this. So what she's saying is, there are two feelings that we get to, well, she's not saying this, but this is what I'm saying. As humans, there are different ways of being that we all get to have. And sometimes we can move through life feeling big and with agency and freedom to make choices. And we can see in our bodies we're upright and like this. And in truth, that human quality is nothing to do with money. It's a human capacity. And some of the greatest, most free people with great agency throughout history have had no money, but they've just been very free, powerful people. And some people with money are like this. But the money isn't what allows me to be like this. And also because we're humans, we get to know what it's like to be vulnerable and dependent and small. And we can either embrace that part of what it is to be human, or we can maybe fight it or think that's not me. And this is what I'm wondering, Lauren, somewhere along the line, I'm guessing that you chose, and it's very understandable, well, I want to be feeling big, grown up, free. And the part of me that knows what it's like to feel small and vulnerable and dependent is not part that I'm able to or feel okay about connecting to, or even aware of, maybe. Maybe I've been through most of my life being more free and grown up.
No, this is known to me.
Okay. You know this work already, yeah?
Mm.
Okay. Well, then the only thing I need to say is, please don't think that your retirement pot will make any difference on that level. I mean, I wish you a big retirement pot, do what you like with it, but it won't stop you from feelings of being small or vulnerable. Because numbers never going to do that. And even if you're the richest retiree in the world, eventually you're going to get old, like proper old, like, I'm thinking of dear Joe Biden, one of the most powerful men in the world, and eventually our powers wane and we become vulnerable and we have to be dependent and we become physically smaller. So if you know this work, if this is resonating, then the step is to realize that what you're experiencing around not wanting to be vulnerable, wanting to be free and big, is nothing to do with any decisions you made when you ended relationships. Nothing to do with your pension pot. That's my suggestion. How does this sound to you? We can do maybe one more step before we finish.
That is really resonating with me. Like, you can't see because of body language, but I've been holding my hands like this. So when you did your freedom like that, I was like, oh, that's complete opposite to how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. And that's our final step. And then I'll just check out with the group. So, we'll do a brief checkout. I'm happy to stay another 5 minutes, but if you need to leave on time, that's fine to everyone. So when I'm like this, and children often hold their hands a bit like this, don't they? So because I'm more with my vulnerability. So the two statements I would offer you to work with, Lauren, is I am small and dependent, and it's okay. You could, when you're ready, go further. I'm small and dependent, and it's great. It's beautiful. It's part of my humanity. It's not just okay, it's beautiful. But the other side, and if this helps, do this with your hands. I am big and free. I'm not sure that's the right word, but whatever the thing you want to be. I am free and powerful, or free and big, or free grown up. What phrase sounds right to you about what I want to be with my £1 million pension pot?
I'm free and adventurous.
Great. I'm free and adventurous with and without my pension.
I'm free and adventurous with or without my pension.
And just notice how that feels. Just notice if anything feels different or what happens in your body. I'm free and adventurous with and without my pension, or with and without £1 million, or with and without, the money from the past. How does that feel for you?
Opening again.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we need to leave it there with you, Lauren, because I want to just check out briefly with the group.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for volunteering and sharing with us. And I'm absolutely sure your themes will have resonated with many people in the group. Any of those words that have resonance for you about smallness, vulnerability, dependence, freedom? The process that we did is one way of helping us get at a kind of embodied level, this thing that we can kind of get intellectually, but it's hard. But actually, if I'm free and adventurous, I'm free and adventurous with and without money. If I've got £1 million, it doesn't actually make me free and adventurous. That's a fantasy. There are many people with £1 million pension pots who are not adventurous at all because they're so scared of losing their pension, or will my pension last me 30 years? And there are plenty of people with not much money who get to be adventurous. It's part of them. And the other side is whether I'm adventurous or not, it doesn't mean I'm not also able to be, small and vulnerable. So what we do in this process is we unpick the human experience from the number. And Lauren, I hope that's been helpful in some way for you.
Yes, definitely. I feel very hot, like energy is moving around me a lot.
Great.
So
And I think
something's happening.
That's great. And it's work you've obviously kind of tuned into this polarity about childlike vulnerability and adventurous adult freedom. So, what I wish for you more than the size of your pension pot is I wish you adventures in your life at every age.
So do I, thank you.
Yeah. And maybe if you realize you're free and adventurous, maybe you leave the job you don't want sooner than you realize and go and have adventures. Who knows? Might happen.